Hello, everyone. Welcome in. It is February 26th. It's Wednesday. It is Combine Week. We'll start workouts here fairly soon. I think on Saturday, maybe sooner. So we'll talk about what the Combine actually means. If you're a fan of football, fan of a Combine, fan of your team drafting these players, talk about what you're going to see. NFLPA released their report card for 2024, where players are able to give their opinions, their grades essentially on everything from family to strength coach to weight room, talk about what the results mean. Does it matter for your favorite team or does it not? And we'll start with Travis Kelce, who it appears the Chiefs Hall of Fame tight end is coming back to play one more season. We covered this right after the Super Bowl that I thought he might retire. And very clearly was leaning in that direction. I was wrong. Seems like he's going to come back. Brett Veach, the Chiefs general manager, said we're planning on him coming back. And I talked about sort of the money part of this as well, and that might play a factor. And that plays a factor often in a lot of these decisions where Kelce has not made a lot of money relative to the success he's had on the field as a tight end, right? I mean, he is one of the best, if not the best, pass catching tight end of all time. He gets paid like a tight end, not a wide receiver. So one more year of nearly $20 million could be enticing for him, who is not a guy who's been paid like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase will be paid. He's just not a wide receiver. So he's underpaid for what he has had in his career. He's got plenty of money otherwise, but I can certainly see him saying, look, man, I'm due to make a lot of money this year. I got 1 year left in my deal. We lost the Super Bowl. Let's run it back. And the reason why I question whether or not he would come back is we saw what he looked like to end the season. And if he did come back, and he might come back, sounds like he will, what do the Chiefs do offensively as basically a pitch count to get him to the postseason? You know, last year they tried to start the season without him being their first option. If you recall, they went ahead and had Rashee Rice. I mean, it was 30 targets over the first 3 games. They wanted someone else to be the offense and let Kelce be the second or third option. That's got to be the same approach this season, where you have an older aging Kelce, and maybe these big games, he becomes your guy. But you got to find Noah Gray more reps, and maybe Noah Gray is the primary tight end on the field for a lot of moments in games. And then Kelce's just there otherwise. And you have Rice, who will be suspended at some point. But let's say he plays 12 games, and you have Xavier Worthy, and maybe Hollywood Brown is back. You got a wide receiver in the draft or in free agency, and Kelce's not your number one target. That to me is what you have to go into the season thinking, is that it's great to have him back for big moments of big games, but in a week 8 game against the Raiders, no offense to the Raiders, that's not your number one guy, right? And that's the way I think you have to approach the season. You put him on a pitch count right now. That's not Andy Reid's way, though. Andy Reid is not a pitch count type of guy. He doesn't give vet days off in training camp very often. He's a physical. We're going to hit. We're going to get our work in. And he's not a guy over the years that has been one of these coaches that will pull back reps, and especially in game day. But I think you have to manage this correctly this season. You want to get him to the finish line, which is the postseason, which the Chiefs are always striving for. And with him coming back, I do wonder if my thought of sort of a reset transition season is not what the Chiefs have in mind. They're going to have to redo Mahomes' deal. I wonder if they redo Kelce's deal to give him maybe more money and then less on the cap. And yes, you take a cap hit next season at some point. You spread out over a couple of years. This way you can build a team around Kelce being there this season, which obviously, if he is back, you're almost Super Bowl or bust again, where I think if he's not there, you have the grace of essentially saying, let's figure out offense without Kelce for the first half of the season. Hopefully it gels in the postseason or back half of the season. We're playing better balls. I think there's naturally going to be a little bit of a figuring out period if he's not there. Well, if he comes back, then that transition that I've talked about might occur a couple times a game or a series or two or a drive or two or a game or two because you're playing less of Travis Kelce, but not to the extreme that I think it has to happen essentially if he's not there. So very curious if he actually follows through on this. I said this before. This is certainly the case over the years where players feel like they want to retire. They get a month off, 2-3 months off. They do retire per se. And then come around June, they go, oh, I feel great. I'm coming to training camp, or July, I'm coming back. So that certainly can happen here where Kelce thought he wasn't going to play this season. Super Bowl happens, could motivate him to play one more year, but it's 2-3 weeks later. His body feeling better. Maybe he had an ailment or two we don't know about, and he's feeling like in a couple of weeks when the Chiefs start up again, I want to be part of this. So really interesting to see what they do cap-wise with Kelce's number. Again, Mahomes' number, Chris Jones. They have to adjust something to get guys to sort of fit under the salary cap to allow themselves an opportunity to bring in some other football players. But the mindset of this season could change if Kelce comes back. I don't think they're going to do a reset, transition year, whatever you want to call it, if Kelce's there, obviously, right? You're going for a Super Bowl again, and it's Super Bowl or bust, which it is, to be fair, every year. But the specific part about, like, we win a championship or nothing, I think if Kelce's not there, you might say, okay, let's get the offense set for 2026, right? Let's get Rashee Rice back up to speed after being out and suspended, I would imagine. Xavier Worthy heading into year 3. Maybe we draft a young guy. We got him heading into year 2. Noah Gray now had a whole year with Mahomes, year 2 of Noah Gray. Like, there's a possibility that not that Andy Reid would say that, or Brett Veach would say that, but that's how they would treat 2025 without Travis Kelce. So curious to see what ends up happening here. The NFL insiders feel very good about Kelce coming back. That's what they've reported, and I believe them. I think that's what the Chiefs believe. That's what they're hearing. And obviously, there's no need to retire now. But it is worth noting that decision sort of has to be done soon. He has to talk to the team and let them know, because free agency is beginning, I believe, in 2 weeks. NFL free agency normally mid-March, right? Depends on the calendar year. NFL free agency, I'm going to type it in here. It starts on the 12th. So, you got to let the Chiefs know fairly soon what your plan is here. So we'll see what happens with that. Curious to watch, because it does, impacts the entire NFL. Okay. The NFLPA came out with their annual survey. So they surveyed the players, and they said less players this season participate in the survey, but these are the 9, if I can count correctly, 10 different categories you can vote for: family treatment, food, nutritionist, locker room, training staff, weight room, strength coach, travel, head coach, owner. Now, where does this matter? We'll talk about it. Okay. Miami was 1, Minnesota 2, Atlanta 3, Vegas 4, Chargers went from like 30, they're number 5, Houston, Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, Dallas. Not a lot of Super Bowls in that group, right? A lot of happy players, not a lot of Super Bowls. So the bottom, by the way, Arizona, New England, Cleveland, the Jets, Pittsburgh, and surprisingly, as Pittsburgh, it's funny, as an owner, we revere the Rooney's. They got a D. And again, there's many different reasons for the owner getting a grade and not getting a grade. So let's talk this through now. So family, I'll kind of talk about which each of these are what players are voting on and whether or not it matters. So family treatment is interesting. It's pretty simple. There's 2 things that the players want. One is they want their families to have access sort of pregame to the field and just sort of be given, the opportunity to be in the field to see them before the games and whatnot. And the other thing is child daycare. And a lot of teams offer that now. And the daycare is only on game day. You bring your kid. My wife did this in New York. You bring your kid. You drop them off with the same woman every week. My wife said it was an older lady that just took Alex every week. Alex was a newborn. He was born in July. We played September. And then she got to enjoy the 3 hours of the game without a kid. Got to have a drink or 2. And then I scooped him up as we left, and we just went home. It was great. 3-hour break. And most teams offer that. Some teams don't. So why are the grades a little bit lower for family treatment for those teams that don't offer that? Food and nutritionist, I think, sort of go hand in hand. If you look at the grades here, the Bengals have an F grade for food and a C grade for nutritionist. They're pretty well aligned. This is obviously, is the food good? Is it fresh? Does nutritionist have options for players? Are they going to go above and beyond to accommodate some needs? Nothing crazy, obviously, but that's pretty self-explanatory. Locker room, training staff, locker room, training room, weight room are all, and really owner, are facilities related, right? Are the facilities good? Now, Kansas City gets terrible facility grades because their locker room, their fieldhouse locker room is not great. The weight room is not been updated, but it's why. Look, locker room D minus, training room C minus, weight room C plus, owner C minus. They typically go hand in hand. That's what happens a lot of times because you equate money, right, with making sure your training room is nice, your weight room is nice, your strength coach, excuse me, your travel, all those things, you equate that with the same. So like for the adult Miami, like that's all owner, right? Look at like a C owner. Like here's a C plus owner for the Colts. Ursay, they get B's, B, D plus for travel. Like that plays a role in it, right? Do you travel? Do you the players have to fly first class? Do you go to nice hotels? Not like Ritz-Carlton hotels, but do you just? There was a story about Kansas City just in the. It's actually interesting. So I'm going to read this right now. The Chiefs. So this is about their game day. So we go to hotels typically not before games. You stay, you're quarantined from your family, you hang out together. Foe doesn't get to go. Super bummed about that, obviously. But here's what the Chiefs players said, which is kind of wild. Players say their home game hotel is below standard. They report that it is outdated, the beds are uncomfortable, and many players even keep their shoes on in their rooms because the floors, especially in the bathroom, are dirty and sticky. Leftover trash from previous occupants is also a common issue. It's no surprise that Chiefs home games, Chiefs home hotel scored the lowest across the NFL. That's like unacceptable, right? The players just want basic needs, and that's what. Again, we're not asking for a lot; just want basic stuff. And I think that players should have those things. So then there's travel, head coach, owner. Head coach, owner typically, head coach gets a lot of high grades. Owners get medium. Again, owners goes back to the trainer. So what do you take away from this stuff? I know that there is an argument to be made that the amenities, the food, nutritionist, the family treatment, like all this stuff makes an impact on whether or not a player signs there for agency. And the truth is, it means nothing. None of this means anything. It means 0%. Players go places for money, maybe location, and winning. And the Chiefs are 26th in this. Philly is 22. Buffalo 23. These are teams that Pittsburgh 28. Teams that have routinely historically won are grading at the bottom of this. And yet, look, is it great that your food tastes delicious? Of course. And I think that owners should absolutely spend a few extra dollars to make sure that nutrition is on point. The food tastes good. The Bengals had terrible food, it said. That you just go to a nicer hotel than one you have to wear your shoes in the bathroom because it's so dirty. Like those are simple things that owners can spend a little more money on. Just make the players happy. In the end, does it help you win and lose? I mean, happy players, do they play better? I don't know. I don't think so. I know that if things are bad, if players don't like coming to the facility, if players think the facility is trash and the food is trash, they might spend less time together because things aren't going well. Plus, you don't like being there. I think you want to have an environment that players want to be at, right? You want an environment where players want to be together in the facility, but it's not a make or break for wins and losses. It's just not. So it's fun to read this, and certainly if you're a fan of the Arizona who's 32 or Dolphins that are 1, it's great to brag or to be sad about. But Arizona is going to be good if Jonathan Gannon and Kyler Murray are good together. They're not going to be good because they got their locker room to look nicer, right? I mean, it's the F for Cleveland, the F for Arizona, the F for Kansas City in locker room. I guess D minus, which is funny that D minus not an F. You build some new facilities and those go from D's to A's, right? Like it's not that big of a difference. So to me, again, it's always the winning and losing that matter the most, the money you pay the players, and these other things are just good to have. They're nice to have. The daycare thing is awesome. It's awesome. All right, moving along. So the combines this week. I don't know when the players work out. I'm kind of curious. I think they work out pretty soon. I know the offensive line is later this week. And here, let's pull up right here. So, actually tomorrow. Okay, so defensive lineman, linebackers tomorrow. Defensive backs and tight ends Friday. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back Saturday. Offensive lineman Sunday. So a lot of players opting out, by the way, of workouts, which for the players that played in playoff games makes a ton of sense because you just finished your season and to prepare for the combine and get ready to run and not hurt yourself because you got to be able to withstand, things you don't normally do. You don't run a 40-yard dash very often in college. You don't run a short shuttle. You don't run a 3-cone. You want to make sure your body is able to do these things the fastest way possible, the quickest way without injury. And if you just finish your season January 20th or January 11th, that's less time to prepare. It's only 6 weeks, right? So I understand players opting out. Talked yesterday about Shadur Sanders. I don't care he's not throwing. I don't care Cam Moore's not throwing. Would I like to see him? Sure. It's not a make or break. So the combine is really for 3 things. Number 1 is medical. It's what it's for. It's why it happened. It's why it continues to happen. So there are, I think it's 6 rooms of 5 teams each. You go into the room, this is on medical day. You go into the room, the team doctors are there, the orthopedist, maybe the internist is there, maybe the backup orthopedist is there, the trainers are there for every team. They've already reviewed your file from college, and you basically do 6 separate physicals with the teams looking at your body. Again, they already have your notes. They have your chart. They're like, oh, Jeff Schwartz, okay, knee, let's check out your knee. Oh, you had a back injury, tell them about your back injury, you're taking notes and whatnot. And then they find things wrong with you. Maybe they play with your thumb. They're like, oh, that feels a little loose. MRIs for everything. MRIs, X-rays, they do it all. And it's a long day. Again, you're going through all these different rooms, but the teams in one place get every single player here to do medicals. And they will fail guys. They will red flag guys. The guys will drop down board because you have a bum shoulder, a bad knee, bad elbow. We just saw this with Mark Williams in the Hornets Lakers trade. They saw something they didn't like. They failed the physical. The Chiefs end up drafting Trey Smith 6th round because of blood clot concerns he had at Tennessee. So this is what this is for. And players go, understand that. And even players that aren't working out, they go for medicals. The second thing is, we'll just say like the mind, okay? The Wonderlic is, I'm not sure they do Wonderlic anymore. They do some mental testing. But more than anything else, it is an interview. It's an interview process, right? There is a large ballroom. You go into at night, and in the ballroom, every team has a table, and they pull you aside, and you talk to a position coach. You talk to a scout. They ask you a lot of simple questions, but they want to get your answer, and they want to see how truthful you are and how much you love football. That's one thing. They want to see you love football. Do you love football or not? You just pound that in your head. But guys are so media trained now and combine trained by agents that, these answers are more about a red flag than a green flag, right? Again, the teams have done background on a lot of these players. They know what issues there are, if there are any ghosts in the past. They know the personalities of the players. Like, they've done the research, and they're just checking boxes. Okay, Jeff Schwartz, we're told he's normal. He's normal in the interview. Like, they're just checking boxes, right? That's all they're doing, checking boxes. And they're looking for red flags. And then you have the individual meetings. Now, so funny. My college is 2008 now, and the individual meetings are 15 minutes. I think so, 15 minutes with every team. 15 minutes with a team that requests you. And you go in the room, and these are the meetings where you hear about those odd questions that are asked. Not every team does it, but there are some that used to do it to rattle players, see how they respond. But you go into the room, and the GM is in there, the head coach is in there, different than the other room where sort of the convention hall where position coach and lower level scouts go in the big room, head coach, general manager, pro personnel guy, you're in the room. They do many different things. They go over film, they just talk to you, they quiz you, all those things. And I learned this later because I had one of those interviews with the Seattle Seahawks. My brother had like 12. That's how you know whether or not you're a guy that's be considered as a high-level draft pick. I learned it later when my brother had 12 and I had one, that teams were not very keen. The top teams, I think I saw Ashton Genty has like 10 interviews, right? Like, the top teams are the ones that are going to top players will be requested by the teams, and you only get a certain number of interviews too. So I think you get like players who do no more than 15, something like that. You're not interviewing with 32 teams in that setting. Now, teams can fly you back out later for top 30 visits. They miss you there. So plenty of opportunity. But again, it's more about just box checking, right? Just box checking. Now, the physical part of the combine, right? So 40, short shuttle, the long shuttle for the skill guys, 3-cone, broad jump, vertical, then the physical, throwing, running, kicking, blocking, catching, all those things. It is 1000% a cross check on the film. That's it. Let me explain. Jeff Schwartz, my college film, I look slow and lumbering. So when I run a 5.4, it checks the box of slow and lumbering. What we saw in film is what Jeff Schwartz ran at the combine. Now, if I ran a 4.9 at the combine and my film didn't show 4.9, or I ran a great short shuttle at the combine and I didn't show the short area quickness on the field, the question becomes, why does he not play as fast as he tested on combine day? There's many reasons for that, right? One is that you're just testing for 6 weeks for combine day. Maybe in a 6-week period where you're just testing, which would be practicing, I should say, for all that, and then get ability to test for it. Like, you just excel in that moment, and you have a day where you're good in that moment. You put the pads on. You're not running a 40-yard dash. You're not as quick. That's certainly possible, right? Sometimes players don't play as fast because they don't trust themselves on film. So you have to figure out, why does Jeff Schwartz not trust himself on film? The vice versa is also true, right? Where a guy might play super fast on film and then run slow at the combine. So why is that? Is he not a great 40-yard dash runner, right? Some guys we know maybe are good in the first 20, bad in the last 40. Or maybe it would be vice versa, maybe that situation. But you got to figure out why that is. Why are they faster on film than they ran at the combine? Now, as more data has been implemented into sort of the system, right? We know that there are certain times that guys run that, even if the film shows they're not as good, that benchmark time does give us an idea of how good they're going to be, especially in offensive line. The short shuttle, the 20-yard shuttle, it's 5, 10, 5. Under a 4.4, those players have long NFL careers without injury. Because we know that if you have short area quickness, most often, there's never, always and never are not words I'm going to use, but short area quickness, that if you show that on the film, that means you're a high-level athlete, right? And those type of players tend to get hurt less. You get their legs out of the way when piles on fly. That's how I got hurt. Pile fell on me, couldn't get out of the way. They're more flexible, right? Their body moves a different way. It can handle stress a different way than other players can, like myself. So there are benchmarks that teams will look for, because you have years and years of data where you know if a wide receiver runs above this time, they're not going to be good in the NFL unless they're a special player. Does the film show they're a special player? So again, it's sort of the same thing about I mentioned with the mental. It's just sort of checking boxes, right? Okay, slow, fast, slow, question mark. Okay. And if there's like 100 bullet points to why someone's drafted, your combine performance is like 2 of the 100 bullet points, right? It's like 2 little things on the entire map of a player. But it does make you go back and check the film, or say, I got the right read of this player on the film. That's it. Now, players have pro days in a couple of weeks. They're going to run faster most often at pro days than they do the combines. Again, you have to weight that. How do I weight a combine performance versus a pro day performance that typically is better? The combine guys, you test at the end of the combine. So you're there for 3 days before you're testing. So you have early morning wake-ups for medical, early morning wake-ups for mental stuff. You got weigh-ins, like you have all these things. By the time you get to the end of the week, you cannot wait to leave. So it's a less than ideal performance situation. You have long waits. You run your 40, you got to wait for 30 other guys to go. And then you might take a 15-minute break before you get to the next drill. A lot of waiting. Your pro day tends to not to be a problem, right? You're just you at your school, you're bouncing through, you're more of rhythm, you're sleeping at your house. So those tend to be better performances than your combine. So that's what to look for. So again, if you got a favorite player, favorite team, guy runs fast on Saturdays, should run fast on Sunday. Guy slow, should run slow. So that's what it's for, guys. I'll be there tomorrow through Saturday morning. So Hope you guys enjoy the combine. Hope you got a little bit out of this guy's arguing with me on my mentions about rich athletes shouldn't be spoiled at daycare. So funny, man. Oh, so funny. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Take care, everyone. Bye.